And we are live. Hello, my lovelies. We are here for our author chat with the lovely Miss Emily McIntire. How do you pronounce your last name?
McIntire. You said it right the first time.
I was like, is it? I was trying to say it without the A in there, and I was like, McIntire.
I just went Reba in my head, so I went McIntire.
Yep.
When I read it.
Oh, you know what? That's the perfect way I'm going to tell people to remember how to say it now. I've never even thought about that.
Anyway, Emily is the author of Hooked, which was our group book for this round of Season-a-thon. This was, for me, I love retellings. And so when we had the opportunity to have this as our group book and to have you here, I was beyond excited because not only do I love me a retelling, but I love me a smutty retelling.
We all knew we love the smut, so we were excited.
Good. Me too.
Yeah, and this is our first smutty read that we've used for Season-a-thon. So
I'm so honored.
We've had a wide variety from middle grade to smut now.
Okay.
What genre haven't we done?
Yeah, I think we've done pretty much everything. We have lots of people here saying hello.
Hi.
So I wanted to start out with saying I love the fact that Hook was Jay Barry. Like, I love that you used the author, his name in there. I thought that was really, really neat. And we were talking before the live about how it was fun when reading, picking out all the things that you kept from the original story, like even the twins, the little lost boy twin.
Yes.
I was picturing them in their little fox or wolf costume, whatever it was.
So what is your background with Disney, and why did you choose to go this route when publishing a series like this?
You know, actually, it really was kind of coincidence. I just write, I always say the characters drop in my head. I call myself a method writer, kind of like a method actor, because literally it's like characters drop in my head and show me the story and will not shut up until I write it. And so I was actually on a deadline for a book in my first series, the Sugar Lake series. And James, I was watching, I think it was like a YouTube live. My daughter, who's like 2 at the time, was watching. And it was like a Captain Hook and Peter Pan thing on the screen. And James Barry dropped in my head, fully formed, and just started screaming at me to the point where I had to stop writing the book I was on a 2-week deadline for and start writing Hook just so he would be quiet enough where I could finish the book I was supposed to be writing. And so it kind of just spawned from there. And I wrote Hooked, and I pulled from the original source work. So it's not necessarily Disney, because Disney wouldn't like me very much if I took them. So we try to stay on the good side of that. So I really went into the original source work for all of the books in the series. Hooked, obviously, the original Peter Pan. Scarred, I pulled heavily from Hamlet. And then Wretched, of course, the original Wizard of Oz. And Twisted is the original Aladdin, which is, you know, I had never actually read the original Aladdin. And so I pulled from that, and I like to give little nods and kind of nostalgia for people, because that's like just fun. It was really fun to write that. And so I was trying to do it in a clever way where it wasn't a retelling of the original story arc, but it kind of gave you the feel of like, oh, like, no, that's Peter Pan. But also somebody who didn't necessarily like Peter Pan, Disney, or the original version, or had never read it or never seen it, could still enjoy the story without knowing all the nods.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny how in the original, how Tink, because I didn't know this, like having just originally only known the Disney version, and then a while back I read the original version, and I was just like, Tink was constantly calling Peter an ass. I was like, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, people always are. I think people who haven't read original fairy tales or even like Grimm brother fairy tales, for example, a lot of the originals are very dark and twisted.
They really are.
And you might be in for a little bit of a surprise with some of the stuff you see about the characters.
Well, a lot of them are really like lots of murder, lots of
I mean, Cinderella with the chopping off the hill and the toe and the blood and the pecking out the eyes.
Little Mermaid.
Sleeping Beauty.
That's a big one.
When I was reading this, I was vlogging and everything, and I was like, well, they're completely unhinged. I was like, they're all of them, all of the characters, they're all just completely unhinged.
Yeah.
And I was like, this relationship is toxic. It's not really good. I mean, he ends up kidnapping her and stuff. But I mean, this is not the best relationship. But I was like, but I'm here for it because
Well, why is it so compelling? You know.
But it's a dark romance. Don't we want toxic relationships though?
Right. Yeah.
That's why we pick up our dark romances.
Yeah. The fun thing about writing really morally gray or straight up villain characters is being able to not worry about the morality line when you're writing the character. And creatively, it's really fun to do because you can just get so lost in anything because they don't care. Like, my character will do anything they want to do without even thinking about it, and it makes it really compelling. But also, it's a really safe way, I think, for people to kind of toe the line with their own morality and kind of see things from different perspectives without actually being dangerous in real life.
I feel like that would be kind of freeing to write somebody that doesn't really have any boundaries. That means that you as a writer don't really have any boundaries.
Yeah, it's fun. It's also kind of it can be a little difficult, and I really like challenging myself when I write and constantly pushing to improve my craft, because how do you write a villain that doesn't redeem themselves in the end, doesn't become a hero, but how do you write that in a way that's going to make people who read it root for that character? You have to kind of give them that depth and make empathy kind of show up there and show the different layers, and villains have the best origin story potential, in my opinion, for that.
Yeah.
I read the author's note at the beginning, and it says the part that says the main character is a villain. If you're looking for a safe read with redemption and a bad guy turned into a hero, you will not find it in these pages.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And then it started out with, what it starts with. And I was like, well, we just jumped right in there, didn't we?
Yeah.
There's like, gutting and all that right at the beginning.
Yes.
I like Corey's comment, Emily takes no prisoners.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
That's right.
I will say I did really appreciate, because as I was reading it, I was like, wonder if Smee's going to make an appearance. And then when he made his appearance in a red beanie, I was like, yes. Yes. Oh my God, yes, I just want to hug him now.
We have lots of people saying hello.
Hi, everybody.
Tori says she really liked this book.
Thank you.
This was, to me, this was a very fun read. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
I really want to read the original tales, but just haven't gotten around to them yet. The original tales are something. I've read a lot of the originals, and I'm always, when I read them, I'm surprised by, because you grow up with the Disney versions, obviously, most people do. And so going and reading them as an adult, I'm like, dang, they're either really scary or really gruesome or
really, really inappropriate in all the wrong
really inappropriate.
Right. And most of them don't have happy endings.
Yeah.
No.
They really, really don't.
Yeah.
I loved Hook, read it in one day.
Thank you.
Yeah. I was buddy reading this, and I was like trying to do it in like little parts because we had to split up over the week. And I'm like, it's hard.
Hard to stop. Yeah.
It's hard to stop. And one day I was like, oops, I read 2 days worth. I got to make myself stop. And I had to wait a whole nother day before I could read anything.
I do have a question about this book series in its entirety. Is there a book that you find has a special place in your heart, or one that you found particularly difficult to write, seeing as they're all standalones, but they're all kind of within that remix retelling kind of aspect?
That's a great question. They're all, this is going to sound like such a cop-out answer, but it's the truth. They're all special in their own way. It's like, I can't pick a favorite child, I love them all for their own different reasons and quirks. I will say that the reader in me really loves reading historical royalty kind of romance. So writing Scarred for me, which is set in the early 1900s, it's a royal romance. It's all about rebellion and, kind of throwing the king off of his throne, stealing his crown. For me, writing that was like, it scratched the itch because I love reading that stuff. So that was the easiest one for me to write. Except for the one I'm writing now, but I can't tell you about that one yet. And then the hardest one for me to write, none of them are really that difficult in the sense that I don't write stories unless the characters are talking to me, because I think that's what creates kind of the genuine connection from my brain onto the page. Is if they're not talking to me, I'm not going to force the story. And I don't pre-plot my books for that reason, because I can't, because I if I try to pre-plot, it doesn't work. I get writer's block. So I sit down and they just kind of feed me the chapters and show me like a movie, and then I write it on the page. So in that sense, there isn't one that's a lot more difficult to write than the other. I will say that Twisted, the book that comes out February 7th, that's the first one that I wrote after being signed to a traditional publisher for the print versions. So the editing process was a lot different than it was when I was an indie author releasing. And that was the hardest switch for me, because I had to go back in and change parts of things because they really made me dig deep in my writing in a way that challenged me in a way I had never done before.
And how do you feel like the difference between indie publishing and traditional publishing is? Are you going to continue to do indie, or are you going to go traditional all the way through?
No, I'll definitely do both. And I think that my experience is different than a lot of people who get signed to traditional publishing because of the deal I got, where I still own all of my ebook rights and I only license my print rights to them. So I can keep all of my books in Kindle Unlimited. I can do whatever I want with the digital versions. And then they are responsible for the paperbacks being in mass distribution. I kind of get the pros of the trad backing with the PR and the distribution networks and all of that without the cons of losing control. I also got to keep all of my creative control. I use my own cover designers, and I have final say in all of the edits. So for me, my trad publishing deal and what Bloom Books, who I signed with, is doing is kind of pioneering a new route for indie authors to kind of toe the line a little bit. So it's been a really overall positive experience. I'm used to doing things really fast as an indie author, though, where I write, I edit real fast, and then it releases. And with this, I'm getting, really in-depth 4 rounds of editing, and I'm finishing a book and it's not releasing for months. So the book I am finishing, I'm on the last week of my deadline for now, is not going to release for half a year. And that's very different for me. I'm not used to that.
We have some comments here. Dana says, I elected to go in without knowing the trigger warnings, but I thought it was very thoughtful of Emily to give you a chance in the author's note to check for trigger warnings if you felt you needed to. Yeah, I read that too in the author note, and I was like, okay. I was the same way. I went in without reading them because I was
I just knew Peter Pan and went in. I was like, that's all I want to know is the bare minimum for most stories, and then I'll just dive in.
That's how I am too. So I don't like putting the actual full detailed trigger warning on the first page because, for me, I like going in blind. But I think there's a responsibility there as the writer to ensure that they're easily accessible in detail. So I'm glad. Thank you so much for appreciating that.
I also got stuck in place and read it in one shot.
I love that.
That's a good problem to have.
Yes.
Bethany says, I also read it in one sitting, both Hooked and Scarred. I binged each in a day.
Dang.
And the covers are so pretty.
The covers
I
are
love the covers. I think they're stunning.
The covers are perfection.
I also love that
matte feel.
Like that soft, buttery matte feel.
The best feel.
I feel like especially with self-published, buy a lot of self-published books because I have a problem. But
Same.
I love the fact that they do have that matte feeling, and I feel like that's something that you get away from in traditional publishing. So I love that you're able to keep that when you're now publishing with Bloom. And going back to publishing with Bloom, I think that it's really interesting because I love going into stores and picking up books, and to go there and now find books that I am so interested in the dark romance spectrum being seen at Barnes & Noble and like all of these big places. It's so fun.
Yeah, and Hooked is in Target now. It just dropped in Target last week. So check your Targets. But yeah, that was a big moment for me because Hooked is, you know, in my opinion, depending on whether you read dark romance a lot or not, in my opinion, Hooked is on the lighter end of dark romance. For some people, they'll think it's really dark if they don't normally read it. Probably a lot of people who pick it up at Target. But like if you're really into that genre, Hooked is like a really nice lighter. I think it's a good like dip your toe in. Yeah. So I'm really proud that it's in Target to kind of show dark romance there to more mainstream.
How does it feel seeing your book in a store, like walking into Target and going, "Hey, there's my book"?
It's wild.
Yeah, I read that.
It's wild. Target was a big one for me. Like Barnes and Noble, the bookstores was a huge one, and then when I got signed to Bloom and it was like mass distributed into bookstores, that was wild. But Target is like, I walked in and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that's there right now. And then if I know USA Today bestseller list is defunct now, it doesn't exist anymore. I don't know if everybody knows that, but it just like went away like 3 weeks ago. They fired the editor and it no longer exists.
Wow.
But if it did exist, Hooked would have most likely been on the USA Today bestseller list last week because after it dropped in Target, it sold so many copies. So we are just spreading the dark romance love.
Congratulations.
Yes, come on, dark romance.
Well, it's rude of USA Today to get rid of the list like 3 weeks before that, but we'll forgive them.
Very rude indeed. Let's see. We have some more comments. Where'd it go? You're welcome, and getting stuck in a book is the best problem.
Yes, it is.
I tried to finish it in 2022, but had to carry it over to the first week of January. I kind of screamed at the ending surprise, and my dad was like, "What the heck?" Yeah, I've heard
that ending was the hell.
I heard a few people they were reading it along with me. They were like, "Yeah, I was listening to the audiobook and I was listening to it out loud, and my fiance or my boyfriend or whatever was like, "What are you reading?" Because for one, gore. For two, damn, that's hot. It gets quite steamy. Yeah, it's funny. Like, if somebody happens to walk in the room and I've got the audiobook going, I'm like, let me just put my headphones in.
Audiobook listeners, I don't know how you do it. I can't keep a straight face.
Oh, I love it.
I don't keep a straight face. I'll be like, I was at my other house because we're in the process of getting our other house ready, and I was at the other house listening to an audiobook, and there's a guy working on recarpeting our stairs, and I'm just kind of while I'm like, well then.
Listen, the amount of times my boss has glanced over at me and asked if I needed a cigarette because the look on my face because some of these dark romances. She's like, "Do you need a cigarette, Clint? Because I've got extras." And I'm like, I might after this scene. Listen.
Well, no, I feel terrible because I have a brand new baby and I'm driving in the car listening to these books and I'm like, what am I corrupting my son into? Like,
you know.
I get books all the time at Target. They should have your books.
Yeah. It's okay. My daughter is a very advanced reader. She's 4, but she's extremely advanced at reading. And she'll come over when I'm writing and look on my computer and go, "Mommy, what's that say?"
Oh, that's something. What if
you can read it when you're older?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what are your thoughts on her reading your books in the future?
Yeah, in the future. Look, my family reads my books. My grandmother reads my books. My mother, my stepmother, everybody. So, and for my daughter, I was reading things probably a lot younger than I should have been. But, fan fiction is a wonderful world. And I don't personally believe my parenting style. I'm never going to kind of tell her she can't read things if she feels she's able to and she wants to, as long as there's open communication about what she's reading. So if she wants to read them, she can read them.
I have an interesting question, which is so weird because I feel like we've never delved this deep on a live show like this, but I don't know if this is an inappropriate question, so feel free not to answer.
Okay. Let me prepare myself.
No, I think it's really interesting, especially reading, as a reader of dark romances, I find that a lot of the things that I read sometimes are not my kink, right?
Mhm.
So like something like asphyxiation.
Mhm.
I mean, I like good choking every now and then, but it's not really my kink to that extent. Do you
Yeah.
find that you write those things that you like into them, or do you delve into things that are not really your cup of tea?
Yeah, no, not what I write is not personal preference. And that really goes back to, again, like the characters are so real to me. And the reason I write in first person present is because it's like they're speaking through me. I feel what they feel. So when I'm writing it, I guess it kind of is because I'm feeling how they feel. And I really don't have control over it. but a lot of the things that are written in my books are not my personal preference. The same way that outside of the kinks, a lot of the reactions and the decisions that my characters make are not things or decisions that I would make if I was in that situation, but I'm not the character. It's their journey. So no, actually, there are things like this spit kink, for example, not my thing. My best friend, Savar Miller, that's her thing. And I'm like telling her as I'm writing Wretched, which has spit kink in it, I'm like, listen, I do not want to write this. And these characters are going to make me write this in this stupid scene.
Oh my
But,
goodness.
you know, but I feel like when you give in, you let the characters kind of tell you who they are and what they like and how they interact with each other. That's what creates that genuine chemistry and kind of tension. And if you force certain things because you like it, or you keep things out that are trying to be put in by them because you don't like it, it's not going to read as smooth.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I guess the same thing
like-
goes if you're a reader. You don't always
that.
like what you read, but
Yeah.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you what inspired the asphyxiation thing, because I was not expecting that. I was just like, well, okay.
Yeah, it's really, because I don't pre-plot the books, it kind of takes me on a ride while I'm writing it. So I never know what their kind of thing is going to be until it happens in the book. And it writes naturally as the scene is happening. And so I find out kind of live as it's going on. I never know beforehand.
So we have a few questions that we ask all of our authors, and one of those is, what are you reading right now, and do you have any recommendations?
Right this second, I'm not reading anything because I'm on the last week of my deadline for my next book, and so I'm trying to be on time. My editor will thank me for that. But the last thing I read was, let's see, I did a reread of the Horde King series by Zoe Draven. I don't know if any of you have read these books. They're science fiction romance, but when I tell you that these books are slept on, I mean it. The Horde King. Everybody write that down.
Chapter of the Horde King?
H-O-R-D-E. Yes. Yeah. It's a whole series. Okay. And
Ooh, it's ripped.
she is so, yeah. I'm
So
telling you.
Kaylani style then.
This man is ripped, like ripped.
It is.
Okay, now I've gotta look
And
this
I
up.
went in just for like an easy read, and I'm a huge mood reader, right? So I'm like, okay. And I was in my like science fiction / also paranormal, whatever. I was like, okay, let me just pick this up. It happened to come up on my Kindle. And when I
Okay.
tell you that these books made me cry, like the writing, the depth of characters, the actual storyline, and then the spice on top of it, Zoe is so slept on. These books are incredible.
God, he
Very
is
intrigued.
ripped.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
He
I
is
can see that through the camera.
ripped.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, that was my most recent reread. I've also recently see, this is the problem. I just picked up a book at Target when I was there the other day. and I can't remember the name. Oh, Kennedy Ryan's new book that just came out. I picked up. I haven't read it yet, but Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. I love everything she writes, and so that's going to be. I always recommend her.
The Hoop series broke my heart.
Oh my gosh, please. If you've never read Kennedy Ryan, that's my number one recommendation.
I think I
She's
actually
incredible.
pre-ordered that book that you're talking about.
Before I Let Go, it just came out recently.
Yeah.
Yes, so good.
Yeah.
I haven't read Kennedy Ryan yet, but I have that for another project for things that my friends love.
Yeah.
I love the last one Kaylani gave me, so I might as well continue on with what Kaylani gives me.
Yeah. Kennedy is incredible. She's an incredible writer.
I don't know how she writes the way she does. Longshot is one of the hardest books I've ever read in my entire life, but oh my gosh, so good.
I know. Incredible.
So good.
Okay, so what is your go-to snack and or drink when writing?
Coffee. Coffee is my go-to. I would like to say I have a snack, but honestly, I'll forget to eat when I'm writing. But I actually also am usually exercising while I write. Over in this corner of my office, I have a treadmill, and in the mornings, I wake up early for my daughter and I walk 6 to 7 miles while I'm getting my word count in for the day. So I don't eat. And normally I'm not drinking anything but water. So I guess technically water.
Multitasking. Wow. That's some serious multitasking.
I'm an ADHD and it really helps. If you have ADHD, get out under the desk treadmill.
As a new mom, I'm blown away by you right now because I don't know how. I had to step away for this interview, and I'm like, babe, are you good? Do you need anything? Because I can't be there right now. I don't even know how you write and publish and take care of your daughter. I commend you. That's amazing.
Kaylani's baby, first and only baby, is only just a couple months old now. So
yeah. Oh,
brand new baby.
Brand new. Okay. Well, yeah, you'll find your rhythm. You'll find a rhythm. The first few months are,
by the time they're 4, you got it down.
Yeah. Also, the beginning was a lot more difficult for me because my husband worked full-time as an engineer, but now we're blessed enough from the success of my books that he can stay at home, and he actually is technically legally an employee of mine. And so he gets to stay at home, and my daughter and him are out in her little Lamborghini Power Wheels right now, driving around the neighborhood while I'm doing this.
so he's got the hooking up with the boss kink then.
Yeah. Call me a sugar mama. No. He does a lot. He does all the behind the scenes stuff.
Love that.
Most beautiful cover. What a multitasking queen. Yes. Yeah, that's so I tried my hand a little bit at writing, and I'm also a ADHD, and I need something else to do while I always have to do multiple things at a time. And so I found myself in that would have been a much better use of my other energy to be on a treadmill or something, but instead I was shoveling M&Ms into my mouth.
Whatever works. If you're trying to write too, if you do have ADHD, I really recommend writing in sprints because it saves me. I get so distracted and then I end up not hitting my goals. So I set timers. I actually use an online website. If there are any writers in here, I use an online website called OWrite, OHWRITE. And it gives you a page. You can be in the room with other people who are also writing. And then you set a timer. So I do 5 minutes and I just sprint write where I don't stop writing. I just get words on the page. And then I take 5 minutes off to do something else so my brain can reset, and then 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off. That's how I stick to my goals.
I think all of us have dabbled in writing here and there. I think the hardest thing that for me is I would write a page and then I would get so stuck rereading that page and re-editing it and going back and changing the wording. Do you write all in one go, or do you write, edit?
I don't write all in one go because a big part of the reason why is, again, because I don't pre-plot my books. So I have to kind of go back in chunks and clean it up to the point where I can kind of make the path. Because if I don't see where the real story is cleaned up, then I can't see where I'm going next. It's like the story won't show itself to me. But a lot of people told me when I first started writing that editing as I go was going to mean I never published a book. And I tried it the other way because I had always been told, don't edit while you write. And it made me have writer's block and I couldn't write. So for me, I write. Sprint writing helps with that because when I'm sprinting, I'm not worried about syntax or whether it's complete trash, or if I'm going to erase all of it, if it makes sense. I'm just writing without stopping for 5 minutes. And then after I go through and I can clean up the chapter and make it, readable. And I don't go for perfection because I wait until I'm finished with kind of a cohesive first draft. Then I can go through and I can perfect it. And I go through the entire thing, read it from beginning to end. But I do edit while I go. If it doesn't work for you, though, write it all in one go.
Everybody wants to know if there's a book or author that inspired you to write your own stories.
Oh, I have a lot of authors who inspire me daily, but I've always been a writer. Since I was a little girl, I have hundreds of notebooks filled with poems and songs. And the way I actually published my first book was because my mother bought me a psychic reading, and he lived in England, so it was done on Skype. And in the psychic reading, he goes, and I had never told anybody I had been thinking about writing a book. My husband didn't know anybody. And they go, who is it that wants to write a book? He says, Spirit is saying that really needs to happen. They're really pushing that would be a positive thing. And I had never told anyone, but I still didn't write it. And then about 6 months later, my husband was gifted a psychic reading. And this guy goes in completely blind. He doesn't know anything but your first name. And in my husband's reading about halfway through, he goes, somebody close to you is really gifted with the written word. And I keep hearing that you need to push them into doing something with it. And he said, they keep saying to be published, and it needs to happen. And they're very strong about it. And so my husband told me that. I was like, okay, I'll write a book. So I guess the spirits inspired me to write a book. I sat down and I wrote my first book. And 2 years later, here we are.
Wow.
I love that.
So how long does it take you to write one of your books on average?
It doesn't take me long. I can usually write the first drafts when I actually start writing it, because I have a very bad habit of procrastinating until the stress makes me want to die. And then I can sit down and write. And I'm like, oh, great, I have like 2 weeks.
That just means you're good under pressure.
Right. Yeah. That's what we'll go with. So I can do the first draft generally in about a month to a month and a half is when I write the first draft. When I was indie publishing, I would write it in a month, and then it would go into like 2 rounds of editing, beta readers, and then I'd get it back and release it all within like a 3-4 month time frame. Now, because it goes through more intense editing and it has to go to printers, I write it for like a month. Well, I get like actually 3 or 4 months now to write, which is a long time for me compared to what I used to have. But I still end up only using that small amount of time to actually sit down and write. And then it takes about 2 months to go through all the editing process where I really polish it up and add and tweak and change. So, a month to 4 months, I guess. Is that a good answer? I feel like that's a really vague answer.
I mean, to me, that blows me away because it seems like it would take so much longer to write than that. Like, I couldn't imagine trying to write a whole book. And I mean, I know people do like with the NaNoWriMo, and I've tried NaNoWriMo and I suck at it. But I'm just like, I don't know how people do that in a month. Like, blows my mind.
I think it's like, it just depends. Some people will take a long time, but I think because of the way my writing process is, it just kind of flows out of me. Because again, it feels like they're just talking to me. So it allows me to do it. And we're someone who like pre-plots a lot of their books, a plotter. I think if I was a plotter, it would probably take me a lot longer. Whatever. It works.
When it comes to writing, is there a part of writing a book that is like the hardest part for you to write? Because I know, like for me, who I'm going to be doing a lot more research this year and stuff, and start writing my first novel, the part that's going to be the hardest is starting, like
Yeah.
trying to figure out what that first sentence is.
Yeah.
But what is there any that is like really hard for you when it comes to it flowing and you writing, and it's like you get stuck in one spot?
hmm That's a great question. I think that the middle is probably for me where I start to, because the beginning always kind of just like pours out of me because the characters are so strong in my head that I'm just like, I have to write. So the first, I would say 3,000 words come easy. Then it's like for the next 10, 15, 20,000, I'm still learning the characters. And something I do before I start writing the book is when the characters drop in my head, I recreate character profiles for them. And they're actually in the back of all of the paperback books through Bloom. The character profiles in the very back of the books I write before I write the novels.
Oh, yes, these. Okay.
Yeah. So I basically interview my characters so I can learn everything. And there are things that aren't even going to be in the book. Like, what would they be named in their high school yearbook as most likely to? What would they want written on their headstone? Who do they go to for moral support? What's their favorite memory as a child? Things that never make it into the book, but they allow me to learn the characters so well that I can throw them in any situation and I know how they would react naturally. And that helps. But the first, I would say after I write the first few thousand words, then I get into okay, we're really honing in on who the character is and how they interact with people and stripping away the layers so that we can create the issues that are going to give them the arc and the growth. And sometimes for me, that can be really challenging because I don't pre-plot, I'm like, okay, I have to tell all this story and I have no freaking idea what I'm about to be writing. And that when you're staring at a blank page, similar to you saying when you're trying to figure out the first sentence, you're staring at a blank page like, what the hell do I say? And so it can really, I kind of have to push through wanting to kind of procrastinate and not write it because I don't know what's going to be written or what I'm going to write about. And I just kind of have to push through. And then once I hit like halfway through the book, when I get like 40, 50,000 words, I hit the stride. I'm there. We're in it. And then I smooth sailing the rest of the way.
I asked a lot of different authors that same kind of question about how do you come up with that first sentence? And I remember I asked Rick Yancey, and he said he was like, I got frustrated and I was angry and I was just like, I can't think of my first sentence, and he's just like, aliens just suck. And that was the first sentence.
That's a great first
The
sentence.
way was aliens suck.
Yeah.
He was like, okay, I'll go with that.
Perfect. Whatever works.
And with this new release that you have, which is it the last book in the series, or are you guys?
No, it's signed. Never After is signed with Bloom for 6 books, so there will be 2 more after Twisted.
So did you? Yeah, I'm assuming you had the same process. The characters came to you.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to go back and look at the source material. What do you find is like the most exciting part of the research for your retelling aspects?
I always enjoy looking at source material because I just think it's fascinating to see the origin stories of these super popular, Disney, whatever it is that they become. But I really like taking pieces of the story and the characters' personalities and then seeing how they naturally kind of weave into who's talking in my head and then applying that. And then for me, the most fun part is going in and putting in those little nods to the originals that I just am like, I know that like if you're a super fan, you're going to appreciate that line. And a lot of people don't catch all of them because they're not like really into that particular story. Or like a lot of people with Scarred, for example, they don't catch a lot of the Hamlet stuff, which there is a lot of Hamlet and there's a little Macbeth, but mainly it's Hamlet. And it's always really gratifying for me to put that in and then to see the people that do come to me and they're like, oh my gosh, when I read that line or when I saw that you named him this or that you did a play on that, it's like That's my favorite part of the retelling. And I don't call them retellings because I'm not technically retelling the original story arc. I just am like fracturing them apart completely. But yeah, that's my favorite. And I also like putting hints to the next book. I always put hints to what the next story is going to be about in my previous book. And I heard a rumor. I cannot confirm or deny that I also always put the title to the next book in the previous one. I can't say if that's true or not, but I do know my Facebook group, there are multiple threads constantly going of people trying to figure out what the next books are going to be about.
You're gonna have to.
Had you do that? Because
I
do
will
it in all of them.
I will say while reading it, I did giggle and stuff when acorns were mentioned, or like
Yes.
the thimble was mentioned, and I just went,
See,
oh.
that makes me so happy because that's actually the first time anybody has ever mentioned that has been in Hook to me. So that makes me really happy because those are like little things where it's like not everybody's going to pick up on that, but it's really fun for me to throw them in there.
Mm-hmm. The
I have
thimble
to
made
say-
me go to the Robin Williams film, and that's what popped in my head, and that's why my brain went, oh.
Mm-hmm.
When you said something about a line, it just triggered, like, I specifically took a picture of this page because this line just like totally like blew my mind. And just because I love heroes that are like, they will do whatever it takes for the heroine, and it's, no darling, I'll hand you the match and stand back and watch you become the queen of the ashes. Like,
Yes.
oh,
That is the most highlighted quote in that book. And actually, the Queen of the Ashes, that line I use it in every one of the books in the series.
Oh.
Because like it's just kind of turned into a theme. You know what I mean? Because like he's like, I'll make you queen of the ashes. So it had to carry through where the villain made everybody in every book. But that is like literally, people go wild over that line. And I had a feeling when I wrote it, you kind of always get the sense when you write certain things in books, like that's going to be the one that gets talked about the most.
See, with Scarred, because you're basing it off of Hamlet,
Mm-hmm.
is there any Lion King references in it besides the title being Scar
Right.
being the villain?
Well, there has to be really careful because, again, you can't pull anything directly from Disney. So, Sourcebook's legal team is very thorough when their lawyers read through all of my works before they publish them. And if there was anything that was too close of a reference, they thought, they were like, no, take it out or change it, so there are some. Lion King is a retelling of Hamlet in its own right. So because of that, there are a lot of similarities that way, but I was very careful of not doing any direct quotes because Disney likes to sue people, and I'm not trying to do that.
There are a ton of retellings out there.
Yeah.
How can I get past it? Like,
Well, because if you're pulling from the original source work in the public domain, then you're good. It's just if you're doing anything, the radar, public domain, it'd be in trouble. Did I just disappear?
You're there, but okay, it was like freezing.
Okay, there
okay.
I
was
okay,
I was like,
yeah. So you just have to be really, really careful and only pull from sources that are available for you to legally pull from. You can do kind of nods to and things like that, but you can't do like direct things. And like you can't use, like I can't go out and use any Disney stuff to promote. Other people will always call them Disney retellings because that's what the most popular version of the stories are.
Or
but like,
but those are retellings,
right? But we're not going out and promoting them as like, look at our Disney retellings, because they're not from the Disney versions. They're just, they parallel because the source work is there. So I think with a lot of other retellings, it's the same. They're actually pulled from the original source work, and they might parallel, but nothing is pulled directly from. And if there are some that pull directly from anything copyrighted, they're taking the risk.
Interesting. Very interesting.
And
Good to
I know,
know.
like you did a nod with the twins, the Lost Boy twins, because I know they're not really part of the original so much as the the two twin Lost Boys in the Disney version.
Yes, Karina. These would fall under Disney After Dark.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. But also like Wizard of Oz is not Disney. So I'm not, like Disney wasn't who did the Wizard of Oz movie. And not all of them will be. So it really just, yeah, that's just what people kind of relate it to. So with Scarred, there are some nostalgic nods and similarities that parallel, but
Nothing direct.
nothing direct. Yeah. And actually, the indie version of Scarred has slight tweaks with a couple things that changed in the Bloomberg's version because Bloomberg's legal team was like, you got to change this. Like it's good, but we're very careful because we're a major publisher. So
Yeah. Amanda says, I've done some writing on Wattpad before, but I had a hard time sticking with it and I would just stop. How do you manage to keep it going?
Yeah, that is the struggle, isn't it? That's where my sprint writing really comes in handy because when I'm feeling kind of that writer's block or no motivation, I just sit down and I'm like, okay, I'm going to give myself 10 minutes and I'm going to do a 5-minute sprint and then I can do whatever. And in the 5-minute sprint, I'm getting words on the page and that usually helps me break through any writer's block or anything that's like not motivating to me because it's better to have a bunch of like words on the page that make no sense than having nothing there at all. So I would just, sit down for 10 minutes, set a timer, write for however long, write for 10 minutes. And then if that's all you want to do for the day, stop. But at least you've got something down.
And Corey says, not a retelling, but maybe a reimagining.
Yeah. Fractured fairy tales, reimaginings. That's definitely what they are.
Which one in the series has been your favorite so far?
They're all so different in different ways. I can't pick a favorite. I really can't. I will say the one I'm writing now is my current favorite because it's the one I'm writing. They'll change.
And you can't tell us anything about that, though.
Not yet. Nope. I can tell you that there's a villain in it.
If there wasn't, we would be questioning things for this series.
I will have to say, I haven't read your previous series, but the covers, stunning.
For Sugar Lake series?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're so pretty.
I have 2 versions of those. I have a people version with people on the covers, and then I have a discreet version.
I'm looking at them both, like right now on Goodreads. I see the people version and the
pretty.
Oh, the discreet one is so pretty too.
Yeah. Oh, good.
I'm gonna have to buy them. I'm just gonna have to buy them.
And that series, if anybody is curious, that series is not dark romance. It does deal with dark themes. It deals a lot with mental health and addiction and that is an interconnected series of interconnected standalones that follows like a group of friends. And then they each get their own like romance book. So if you're not into like dark romance with villains and more like great characters, Sugar Lake is a great one for you because it's not dark romance, but it does deal with like kind of the darker issues.
I'm even more excited to read Be Still My Heart after learning that Sav is your best friend. That must have been such a fun writing experience.
Yeah. Sav and I have very similar writing styles. She also calls herself a method writer, and because our process is very similar and our voice is kind of similar, it was a really flawless process to write.
The cover.
I know the cover's stunning.
My Heart is stunning.
I don't want to say it's my favorite cover I have, but I love the Be Still My Heart cover so much. The feels I got when we got that cover finalized.
Yeah.
It is absolutely stunning. Yeah, for sure.
Dana says, I love the Sugar Lake covers. I have the discreet cover from Barnes. I can't wait to read it.
Oh, good.
And I also have Scarred in my Amazon cart.
I love that for both of us.
So another question that we always ask is, and this is kind of a funny question, but do you have like something that you always have with you when you write? Like
Like
Janella
Janella
Angeles
Angeles.
has like this little red bird that she keeps sitting on her laptop when she writes. Do you have
I
any?
love that.
Yeah, it's just we've had a few interesting things. So I'm curious if you have anything that you keep with you.
That you like have to have or you can't write.
You know, I don't. And I don't know if that's just because I never have or because writing around a toddler means you have to just kind of sit down and go when you can go and get it in when you can get it in. And if I had something sitting on my laptop, she would snatch it up in a second.
Maybe your thing is the treadmill.
Yeah, it actually
Or the
is.
toddler.
Yeah, she does. She'll come stand in front of it while I'm on it sometimes. And I listen to music while I write too. So like I've got it all going on. And she'll just come in there and she'll be like, just like mommy, and act like she's walking on the treadmill.
So cute.
Wow. So listening to music, writing a book, walking on a treadmill, and entertaining a toddler.
Yeah.
Superwoman.
Yeah.
You really are the
I really-
multitasking queen.
I really like to try and get it done before she wakes up. She's a sleeper, so she sleeps in until like 10:30, 11 most days.
Ooh, lucky you.
Yeah, so I like to wake up early to get it done. And the music I listen to, actually a lot of the songs I listen to while I'm writing end up as the playlist in the book because they kind of set the vibe for the scenes I'm writing.
I love when a book includes a playlist, like because
Yes.
I will go and I'll listen to like all of these songs and go, okay, I can see that, and I
Yeah.
can see that.
Sometimes when I'm listening to music, when I'm like making dinner or doing the dishes or something, then scenes for the book will drop in my head from the songs, and those songs make it in because I have to write in chronological order, but the scenes will drop in my head, and then I'm just like waiting until I get to that part of the book. I'm like, okay, when is this? I know this is going to happen, but when is it going to happen? And then it's like, okay, that song goes with that.
How do you decide what to write next?
Yeah, I don't actually feel like I make the decision myself. See, I always sound so, but yeah,
But it makes sense.
But they do, and it's honestly like I don't usually know what the next book is going to be until I'm like writing the climax of the current book I'm on, and then the next character when I need to be in. Like I'm at the point I'm like, okay, I gotta be invested. I'm at like the most important part of the story. That's when the next book characters are like, hey, we're here. Don't you want to come write us now? We should be the ones you're focusing on. And it never fails. Every single time I'm writing, that's when the next book comes in. So that's when I'm able to go in and like put in little hints for the next book because I always hit it before I'm done with the previous one. And so it's not really a conscious decision. Again, if I tried to decide, I get people trying to get me to do certain story retellings all the time. I'm getting messages and comments like, do this one next. But I never say I'm going to do a certain one because if they're not talking to me, I can't write it. I can't force it. So they just come to me and I'm like, okay, that's the one we're doing next. It's just like, whatever's out there, just putting it in my brain.
To have that happen, as you're getting to that point in writing a book, you already know what your next book's going to be. That is not a bad problem for an author to have.
Yeah,
true.
I love it.
It's
keep
really
it coming, whoever's doing that.
It's really interesting when you mentioned music because I follow another author tuber on YouTube, and she writes self-publishedly as well. But what she does, she listens to music, but she also sprays a perfume for every book that she writes. So she associates that smell with the book, and it helps her write.
Good idea.
Little things like that are just so interesting because I am a person, I can't read with music. I can't read with people talking in the background. So like the fact that you're listening to music and writing at the same time, I feel like I would just write the lyrics.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. I didn't, for my first couple of books, I didn't listen to music and because I thought that would be the same for me. And then I tried it once and it worked. I don't know. But I can't read and listen to music. I don't know how people do that.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I mean, I guess that I shouldn't. I write and listen to music, so I don't know why I'm acting like it's out of the realm of possibility. But I can't do it. I need silence.
I can only read and listen to classical music or like music that doesn't have words. Because if there are words, I'm going to want to sing the words.
Okay, as the one who's the oddball here, I cannot read in silence. I have to have some sort of songs, music, people talking, TV on, something in the background, or I can't concentrate on the book.
Oh, there we go.
Because then because then my mind starts to wander everywhere else, and it wants something else to do, and I can't concentrate. So I have to have noise.
Well, because I'm an audiobook listener and I read along with my books, what I'll do is sometimes I'll go downstairs to hang out with my husband. I'll put the audiobook on, but then all of a sudden the audiobook's going and I'm watching Young Sheldon. Like, I'm lost. And I have to go back like 5 chapters.
But see, I would still need the sound beyond the audiobook because, like, I listen at work, and when we don't have our radio on, I'm like, I can hear myself thinking, and I don't like it. And I'm listening to the book, and I can hear me thinking about the characters, and it's driving me nuts, and I can't concentrate. So I have to go backwards and then go turn the radio on.
You know what? Maybe that's why listening to music when I'm writing works for me, because it kind of drowns out my internal thought process outside of my characters' voices. That's interesting. Learn something about myself because of you.
I'm weird. I'm always the weird ball out when it comes to things like this.
Yeah, I couldn't watch, like, have TV going and try to read because I might read a line or two and then I'd be watching TV. And it wouldn't even matter what was on TV. Whatever it was, even if it's something I hate, I would still be watching it because it's there. Which happens a lot when my son would be playing something in the living room and I was trying to read, I would get sucked into some stupid show. And I'm like, why am I watching this? I need to read this.
That's the exact same. My husband watches the weirdest stuff and I just get sucked in and I'm like, dang, this is not what I came down here for.
See, y'all get the weird stuff. I have the husband who will watch like the same thing over and over and over again. I swear to God, if we watch the Reba show one more time, Will and Grace one more time, One-on-One one more time, those type of things, I'm just like, why are we watching this? You've seen it 30 times this month already.
Yeah. That's how it is having a toddler controlling the TV too. So I relate to that. I'm like, okay. My husband makes fun of me because he said the character in my first book, Beneath the Stars, my debut novel, is Chase. And he always laughs because it says that I named him Chase because Paw Patrol was playing in the background. And I'm like, holy shit, did I? Did I name Chase after Chase from Paw Patrol?
See, I apologize to my mother because of the way that Sterling watches things. I apologize to her, and I'm like, I am so sorry for the amount of times I made you watch Mary Poppins as a kid. I am so sorry.
Let's see, sometimes read in silence, and other times I have sound on in the background, usually my TV.
Strange.
I can't do silence. It's too dead, and then it's like too much in here, and then I can't concentrate on anything. And I feel like that's when I go ADHD.
Yeah.
Is when it's complete silence.
See, that's why it works for me to write and have music and be walking because there's so much going on. I'm able to it helps me focus. So I get it.
Maybe I'll have to try it. And you can't knock it till you try it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so going to try that with my son because my ADHD is nothing compared to his ADHD.
Listen.
It's a lot. And he's homeschooled because of it. And so it's a struggle to say the least. So maybe an under-desk treadmill is not a terrible idea. I might do something like that. Get him a big exercise ball to sit on so he can just bounce and do his schoolwork or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? That would probably actually work. That would work for me. I know. And I have ADHD. So that might be a good idea for the ball.
And I also have the problem of him falling asleep, and you're not going to fall asleep on a ball because, well, you're going to fall.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
I've had Paw Patrol playing in the background for 3 years straight. I'm the same with my ADHD. I need so many things happening around me to concentrate.
Oh, okay, but Paw Patrol is not as bad as what's that other show?
Teletubbies?
When I was babysitting a friend of mine's kid for a while, she liked the Puppy Pals.
Puppy Dog Pals.
That one started seeping into my dreams, and like these
Mm.
little heads of these dogs would chase me, and I'm just like, I
Mhm.
hate
No.
this show. I hate
Yeah.
this show.
She hasn't listened to that one. Like my daughter loves music, and so she doesn't like to watch full shows. She just likes watching music from them. And so like Bubble Guppies is a real big hit with her because a lot of it's music, things like that. But she went through a phase where Puppy Dog Pals, that intro, she
So-
wanted it on over and over and over.
Does she like
Oh.
Disney movies because they all
No.
have musical elements?
No, well, she won't. Well, no, my daughter's autistic, so she won't sit and watch a full movie ever. She never has watched a full movie in her life. She just has zero interest in it. But she will, like, she loves the songs, certain songs, so she will watch those portions of the movie, but
Interesting.
she only likes that. And she'd actually much prefer having her headphones on and listening to the playlist on Spotify where she can just listen to the music.
Choose what she wants to listen to.
Mhm.
Xander's big his show that he watched growing up was a lot. It was Yo Gabba Gabba. I love Yo Gabba Gabba and the singing and all this. I have great memories of watching him try to dance around in his diaper to Yo Gabba Gabba.
My daughter's real big into watching Mario Kart right now, like the game, the actual game Mario Kart. She wants us just to put things up on YouTube of people playing it, and she runs around and acts like the characters. So that's her current thing.
Those are like the best memories, though.
I know, I love them.
See, my ADHD and my ADHD brain. I have a hard time reading with background noise. Not me now looking for the price of under desk treadmills and yoga balls to see if those.
They're not that. They're not too expensive. They're a few $100 the under the desk treadmills, but I am telling you, the productivity, and you get your steps in for the day.
Listen, I need it for work. I might just get one just to put underneath my desk at work.
I just feel like we're all growing here right now.
Yeah, we really are. This is a growing experience.
And the yoga balls are pretty cheap too, like $20 maybe.
Yeah, those aren't
and apparently good for your core.
Yes.
I just remember bouncing on one of those when I was trying to go into labor. I was like,
too.
please.
Please.
Yeah.
It's amazing our brains, they're weird.
Yeah.
Currently have Paw Patrol in the night garden and Teletubbies on constant. I hate Teletubbies. And that's all my son will watch. He's autistic as well and gets very obsessed with certain things.
Oh yeah, so does my daughter. Yep.
My 23s are here.
I mean,
yeah, I wouldn't let my kids watch Teletubbies. I was like, that is just promoting bad behavior. Okay.
Listen, Teletubbies isn't as bad as the Wiggles. Okay. My cousins were obsessed with the Wiggles, and I just kept looking over at them going, this show is stupid, guys. What are we watching?
Yeah.
I like the Wiggles okay. Teletubbies, I was like, they're always making a mess, and then the other thing has to come behind them and clean it up because they won't clean up after themselves. I was like, it's just promoting bad behavior.
Yeah, see, my daughter's
Pretty
never
dope.
watched Teletubbies, but she is the cleanest person I've ever met. She cannot move, like she cleans her room, everything's in lines and rows, and so that's not a part. She can watch whatever she wants, so that she would never let that affect that.
You know what's really funny to think about? We started this live talking about smut.
Now we're
talking
toddler Teletubbies.
kid shows.
We are multifaceted people.
Yeah, we're well rounded.
As Karina said, 2023 is our year.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a show and
I was like, just thinking about it, I was like, that's an interesting turn of events. That was
We can go from smut to Teletubbies. It's fine.
You know what? It's
As
full
long as it's not
versatility.
slutty Teletubbies,
Yes.
we're good.
Yeah.
As long as they don't blend,
Yeah.
we're good.
We're not doing those kind of retellings, okay? Please.
I used to love Teletubbies when I was a kid. Did you guys hear there's a new one?
Yes.
No, please
Yes.
don't tell me that.
They're creepier now, and I don't like it. Ugh.
My son's already the king of destruction and chaos. Teletubbies can't have that much effect at this point.
Oh.
I mean, and then there's the creepy son baby face. But I don't know.
There's a lot of things going on that we just don't need to talk about.
Yeah. Teletubbies were like the only thing I was just like
Kaylani's
with my
not
kids.
got there yet. She'll
No,
get
and I
there
don't want to get there.
soon. She'll get there
Mhm.
soon, and there'll probably be something worse on television when they get
Oh.
to it.
Well, my sister was here recently, and she's 6, and she's obsessed with Boss Baby. I swear, if I watch Boss Baby one more time, I'm gonna scream. Oh,
Toddlerhood is going to be fun for you in a couple years.
I know.
Yes.
Well, the thing is, I have younger siblings, so 6, 7, and 8, and so I was
You're
there
used
for
to
their
it.
younger
You're
years.
used to it.
And I get it. I get
Yeah.
you get fixated on one thing, but I'm just not looking forward to it. You know?
Yeah.
That's wild to think that you have siblings that young that are younger than my kid.
Yeah, that would be my cousins.
This is my youngest. Oh, we were talking about you and you watching Yo Gabba Gabba dancing around the room in your diaper.
He's like, great.
Yeah, on the
It's-
internet forever.
I mean, we've talked about worse than our after-hour live shows and embarrassments and things. Listen, that doesn't
Crazy.
even touch some of our conversations of embarrassment.
Oh, Barney. Also not a fan of Barney.
Oh, I used to be obsessed with Barney as a kid,
Nice and nice here.
I loved Barney. I was
and I
a
watched
Barney
the
girl.
documentary about Barney. Oh, love.
Okay, so just before we clear this up,
Anyway, back to the smut.
So we talked about your current reads. Do you have any all-time favorite dark romances or contemporary romances, whatever? Is there like something that you absolutely love that you feel like everybody should read?
Yeah, I'm a huge mood reader, so my answer for this would change depending on when you ask me. But I love The Evolution of Sin trilogy by Gianna Darling.
Gianna Darling.
Yeah, is one of my favorite series of all time. I love Gianna, but this series, and it does have cheating in it, which I know is a big no-no for a lot of people. I personally love the cheating trope because the angst is incredible. But they're cheating with each other, not on each other, if that makes a difference. But that trilogy is so good. Let me see. For dark romance, what's it called? The Devil's Duet? I can't remember the name of it right now, by Ashley Jade.
Oh,
no.
Wait, Ashley Jade?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me look up the name. I'm so bad with remembering titles, which...
Because I'm reading The Words by Ashley Jade right now, and that's really good.
Yeah. Ashley Jade, The
Range.
The Devil's Playground Duet. That's what it is. The Devil's Playground Duet by Ashley Jade is really good.
Yes, I've seen this one too.
A mind fuck.
And my current read is like much softer.
And then for contemporary
from this to this.
Yeah, see, but I do too. I love
covers.
Yeah.
And then you said
hi.
Contemporary romance?
Contemporary romance. Let's see what my current favorite is. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. They're really good. And they have really good spice. Ashley J writes really good spice.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely recommend. Again, for romance, I'm always going to recommend anything by Kennedy Ryan. She's one of my all-time favorites. I just love her. If you like angsty stuff, she's a great one to go with. Candy Steiner as an author, I always love her stuff. And The Fisherman's Duet by Jewel E. Ann is a great contemporary romance duet. She's great too. Let me just throw out a couple more authors that I've always read and liked. Claire Contreras. She's a great author. I don't see her around like Book Talk or anywhere as much, and I don't know why, because her books are just like crack to me. I love them. And if you like kind of retellings, Trilina Pucci has a Romeo and Juliet duet retelling that I'm obsessed with. Let me make sure I don't mess up the name because she'll yell at me if I do.
I'm just
Well,
loving
no.
this whole that you're saying lots of Kaylani's like trigger words, and me and Mel are just now dipping like our toes the
Oh my God.
past year or so, dipping our toes into romance.
Oh yes.
Okay, Emily, I have to say it because if you haven't read her already, I need you to. Tate James.
Oh yeah. I've read Tate.
Listen,
Yeah.
listen, Kate is
Melanie makes everybody read that. I haven't read it yet,
But
I
have
have.
you read Jennifer
Oh.
Hartman?
Oh, Jen's one of my really good friends. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed with her work. It's so
Yeah.
good.
It's actually funny because we were just at a signing together in Vegas and our tables were like right across from each other and we both had lines. Our lines were like clashing and we were two of the last authors there signed. We signed for 7.5 hours straight.
Wow.
And our lines were so long that both of us, we were like two of the last authors there and we stayed after to finish signing the lines. So like whenever we'd get to see each other, we'd be like, hi.
Over the lines.
Yeah. But I love her. And yeah, she's a great one, especially if you like angsty romance. Just rip
Dark,
your heart
hard to
out.
read
And
romances,
oh yeah,
yeah.
Still Beating, her dark romance, so good. So good.
Have you seen her special edition for that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is definitely the smutty, the dark romance, all that stuff. That's Kaylani's thing. Like
It's my
we all
realm.
have, we all have like something that we really, really
Mel's
like
the
is our thing.
Mel's the retellings. Kaylani's the dark smut, and I'm the queer. I read a lot of queer,
He is the
and
queer.
this
I
year
love that.
and this year I'm diving into more Mel dark romances and stuff like that. I want to see what I like and what I don't like.
Yep.
So I'm like, that's kind of where our niches kind of lie.
I love that because it's such a broad range. Y'all are able to bring in all different kinds of books.
And this worked for two of us.
Hey.
Yeah.
Are any of the other books? Are there any queer characters in any of them?
Not as main characters, not where it's like a focus of the book. I will say that I never really say that they're straight or they're not. A lot of them are kind of fluid, but it's not really a focus of any of my books. And the only reason for that is because, again, I'm not going to force the character to be a certain way, because if I ever write queer characters, which I'm totally open to doing, I'd want it to be natural, and I'd want it to be because that's what the characters are. There is in Sugar Lake series, there are queer characters in Sugar Lake series. They're not main characters, but in Beneath the Stands specifically, which is the second interconnected standalone, one of the side characters who people beg me all the time to give him his own book, and never say never. So it is something that it's not like I don't put them in on purpose, or I do. It's just they haven't happened in these yet.
Yeah.
But I do.
I don't mind side characters.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing is I just would want it. I get asked a lot too if I'll do like any male romance, or if I'll do any female, anything like that. And I'm totally open to doing anything. I'd want it to be natural because the characters are saying that. Otherwise, it just kind of feels like I'm doing it to kind of grab that audience, and I'd never want to do that.
Yeah. They do hurt so good.
Oh, they did. They're so great.
But yeah, because this kind of fit where, for me, the retelling part. But I have only discovered, I think it was this year, the smutty retelling.
You mean 2022?
Yes.
Well, also you have to know with like the smut and stuff, I think especially with like book talk, there's a lot of blurring the lines between erotica and open door romance. Like, so some people will pick up my books expecting a lot more spice than what is in them. Specifically, like Hooked wasn't a slow burn and Wretched's not, but the majority of my books are actually slow burns because I don't write, like, the sex is not the focal point. You know what I mean? It's like, it fits in where it's natural and I like to show it, and I'll do really intense scenes. But some people expect erotica when they read my books. And it's like, it's not that. And then some people don't expect erotica and they pick up an erotica book and then they're like, there was no plot. But there was a plot. The plot centered around the spice.
See,
Yeah.
literally, I was having a conversation with one of my friends online, and we were talking about Hooked, and I was just like, I really hope people aren't going into this expecting like Katie Roberts
Right.
level
That's
of
a perfect
smut,
example.
because you've got like, I like the fact that yours was more on the lighter end,
Mhm.
because sometimes plot
It
is
was more
needed
on
for
the
a
plot
book.
side.
Well, see, that's a perfect example because she writes erotica and erotic romance, and I write open door romance. I write steamy romance that does have very erotic scenes and they're very graphic, but you could take those scenes out of the book and the book would still work.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I felt the same about The Dark King by Gina Maxwell. Freaking love that book. And it's like a Beauty and the Beast kind of retelling.
Mm-hmm.
And so freaking good. It's also like there's also like the aspect of mafia. There's also fae. There's just there's so much in it, and I love it so much. But it's plot.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely some erotic, steamy scenes, but again, just like you said, you could take those out and it still be a really good story.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt with that book.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the same for Sarah J. Maas, where some people are expecting it to be complete and total erotica, and I'm just like, no, it's more plot heavy than it is the erotic.
I mean, there is sky sex, but
there's sky sex, but there's more plot.
Right.
That's way more plot than
Yeah.
spice. Well, thank you so much, Emily, for coming and hanging out with us and chatting about smut and your books and your writing and children's shows.
Oh goodness.
It's fun. And I know I will be picking up the second book. This is the only one I own right now.
Hold on, let me grab this one. Just ignore me. I'm running everywhere. Okay. Here's the next one.
Oh, I love that cover.
So
I love these covers so much.
This one comes out February 7th. If you order it, I have links in all my bios on social media. If you order a signed copy through Joseph Beth Bookseller, you also get a very spicy art print that will come with it. And anybody who pre-orders the paperback, you can go also to the links in my bio and fill out a form, and then you'll get bonus content emailed to you on release day by my publisher. So just so you know.
But yeah, I know I will be picking up Scarred and the rest of them because I had such a great time. And I know several others that will also be continuing if they haven't already. Some of them have already continued. And again, thank you so much
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
And for those that are spicy print, you say?
Yeah.
I mean, but this is Karina.
Who loves your spicy prints?
For those that are here in the comments section, we will be, or at least Clint Kaylani and I will be back at 8 p.m. this evening for our after hours live drunk show with food and drinks and a good time talking about whatever. Could be kids shows, could be smut, could be anything.
And that's 8 p.m. Eastern, just so people
Eastern.
know.
And 5 p.m. PST.
And 7 Central.
We get it.
All right, guys. Well, we hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give us a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below. And until next time, remember to always be completely you. Bye.
In broadcast.